So, I mean, just start by telling me what your role is in Omningage.
Okay, so I'm Andrew Cousins. I'm Business Development Manager for Omningage. My role really is quite varied. My priority is to help partners close new business opportunities, and my tertiary goal is to recruit new partners and to promote Omningage in the best possible light.
It's pretty succinct. Now I know, having worked with you, that you're a bit of a legend when it comes to doing a demonstration. And
Okay.
for you, and I also know this from just generally chatting to you, that you don't think there's anything particularly special that you do in prepping for it.
I
But
think there is
I
something
mean, if you
special, but that's because I'm Welsh, Ajmal.
no,
I'm joking.
for me it's so. I mean, obviously, when I watch it, before I give any observations about how I see you doing it, just give us a, let's say, the last demo that we did. Let's not mention any names or anything, but just give me a little bit of a background of what do you have to do to prep for it and just to be ready to be able to, when someone's talking to the customer, one of our partners has engaged somebody, they're talking to them and they go, Andrew, can you show us the Omningage suite of products? What
Yeah.
do you do to get to that point?
Okay. I mean, ideally, there's kind of five real points on how I would approach a perfect demonstration, right? The first one, the biggest one for me, is know your audience. Okay. And it might be something basic, really, but it's really, really important. To tailor your demo to the specific needs and interests of your audience is the first port of call from where I'm sat. Are they technical experts? Are they decision makers? Are they going to be end users actually using the technology, agents, for example? I think understanding their background and expectations is primary tool tip number one, because that is going to help you focus on the most relevant features and benefits of the technology, of course.
And then some people
Um,
get really hooked up on, don't they, on a certain thing that they're about to deliver.
yeah,
And so I've seen you sort of pivot mid conversation where the customer's talking about something, they've said something, and you're like, that's a bit of information that I didn't have before. And
yes.
suddenly you've pivoted. I know you've changed it because we talk about what's going to come up. And then the customer said something, and there's always going to be something, right? That's thrown right in the conversation. And then how do you then cater for that? Do you then work that into what you're talking about, or do you go,
I
actually,
do,
I'll
yeah.
do something totally different?
No, absolutely. I mean, when I start out, doing a demo is like a story. So you need a beginning, you need a middle, and you need an end. Okay. So I've practiced and rehearsed before every demo multiple times. So I practice my script, the timing, and any interactions from the audience. And of course, by practicing, I can anticipate potential questions or even technology glitches. And I've got a bit of a backup plan for that. So when a customer throws in a bit of a curveball, although it's quite tempting to show all the features of the product, I'm aware that that can overwhelm the audience, right? So instead, I focus on a few key features that have the most impact, and then I tease out of the audience any of their actual, real life pain points. But the reason I can pivot so naturally is purely down to the practicing and rehearsal of the demo flow in advance. I've got a couple of different demo flows in my mind for different stakeholders in the audience. So that's how I can quite easily pivot when a real time kind of real life challenge or pain point is presented to me in the demo.
Have you ever heard the Steve Jobs often quoted quote that
I
says,
have,
if
but
you wait,
please, yeah, go on.
it's the one that says, if you wait for people to tell you what they want, it's already too late. And obviously, when iPhone and iPad and everything like that, when Apple normally do something and they show you something that you've never seen before, but you look at it and go, I need that.
Mhm.
And I've seen where, so obviously you can't always just go, I'm just going to show you exactly what you need. I've done a bit of Trustpilot research. I've done a be the customer kind of bit of research, and I'm going to show you exactly what you need. But I mean, I've seen where you've shown them something that they haven't got, but you know is going to resonate with them. And they're going to go, oh my God, I did not know about that. And then sometimes how do you work that into the conversation?
So, yeah, to answer that really is people remember stories way, way better than they do a list of just features. Here's what it does, here's what it comes out of the box, and off you go. So storytelling is quite important. And normally I create a narrative that demonstrates how our product solves a real world problem. I start with a relatable scenario, I present a challenge, and then I basically show how the product provides a solution. It makes the demo a lot more engaging and a lot more memorable. So as I'm telling my story, the guys in the audience tend to perk up a little bit and think, well, I'm going to throw him a curveball. Nobody likes a seamless demonstration, it would appear. In the audience, someone always likes to throw a story or a challenge or a curveball, but telling stories gets them to that point. So if I'm telling stories about here, an agent's logging in, it's a busy day, there's all their statistics, and I'm telling a story about the agent perspective, then, when the customer throws in a curveball about supervisor, for example, I'm already kind of halfway there anyway, and I've got multiple stories that I can tell during that demonstration presentation, Ajmal.
You touched on it a little bit earlier, where sometimes you can just overwhelm people with information,
Yeah,
and sort of when we demonstrate the full sort of suite of what's available in the Omningage set of products, people do look at it and go, oh my God, that's overwhelming, because we often talk about cognitive load for the agent or a supervisor when they log on and there's so much stuff. And the difficulty we have is those are all gadgets and widgets that you can turn on and turn off what's most appropriate and what they see in the order. How do you then get a balance between saying, well, these are all the things available, and I'm not saying you're going to have them all turned on and they're not all going to come onto the screen at the same time. How do you balance that out to say, I'm going to show you these things, but guess what? There's a whole load of other things available that you could turn on, in place of other things based on what you're trying to do. How do you balance that out? Is that all to do with the story?
it is. It's all to do with storytelling. I keep the story clear and concise, and as simple as possible. With technology, and particularly with the universe that we live in, with Amazon and all those wonderful 300 plus Amazon services, I avoid using acronyms mainly, and overloading the audience, expecting them to know what Lex is, or wisdom, or Lambda functions. I just keep things as simple as I possibly can. And what I always tend to do, which I find helps with the audience, is going back to having a beginning, a middle, and end. I find it really important at the very beginning of a demo to say, hey, this is what we're going to cover. And so this is where we're going to start: agent desktop, supervisor desktop, reporting, and then wallboards or dashboards. Telling the audience where they're going can also help. It can minimize overloading them. If they know they're going from A to B to C, and the demo is going to take around about 45 minutes, then they can relax into that flow. And again, the stories, I keep them as simple as possible, concentrating on real world problems, but not overloading them with acronyms and different technical jargon. I'm not technical. I've done over 900 demonstrations in my journey, and I don't claim to be the tech wizard. There's plenty of people in the audience who might well fill that role. I just relate what the technology does with real life scenarios, and break down the barriers, trying not to overcomplicate things with lots of acronyms, because we're surrounded by a world of acronyms in contact center technology sales, of course.
One of the things that you've just said there, because you and I have both been on presentations and demonstrations where, we're doing it with a partner and the partner has not read the room. And they generally lead it, and we step in and provide the face of what our partner is going to sell. And when there's a CFO or a CIO or a CTO on the call, and someone's going into configuration screens and things like that, and you go and you're there going, I wish a hole would open up and I could just fall into it, because it's you've read the room wrong. You're not talking about business outcomes. You're not talking about customer experience. You're not talking about the commercial benefits of going to this. And there's always that thing of trying to get to the next meeting And I've seen you do where sometimes you flash something up on the screen that wasn't part of the agenda, but people will be interested in, and then you say, well, actually, let's talk about this in another meeting, and then you just move on. Is that a little bit of a tease to say?
It is. It's
Can we
a
have another meeting?
pattern. It is. It's to get another meeting and to ensure that I've captivated the audience, right? Demo close rates. Let's get to the crux of this, right? So the demo close rate for most B2B SaaS companies ranges between 20 and 50%, right? I see demos, and you might have heard me saying this in the past. I'm a football fanatic, Ajmal, right? And I see penalties I see demos, sorry, like the penalty taking scenario, right? A poorly executed demo is similar to missing a penalty shot, right? It's a missed opportunity. The clients makes them clients uncertain about the solution's effectiveness. Just like a missed penalty can shift the momentum of a football match, a failed demo can jeopardize a potentially fruitful partnership. So I do use a little bit of misdirection at times. If I feel like the audience is going quiet or going away from me, then yes, I'll catch them with something really quite funky. Maybe, in our world, supervisors monitoring the sentiment of agents' calls real time. So I'll capture them back. I'll win the audience back and then take them back on that journey again. There's lots of different ways that you can do that. And it's difficult for me to articulate because it just comes kind of natural to me at this stage now. But yeah, I've seen many a demo go south when it's led by tech guys who are assuming that the audience understand all these different acronyms and understand the mechanics and the architecture of technology. I just bring it back to simple real life challenges and tailor the demo appropriately.
Perfect. Because I think one of the questions that someone said to me was recently, talking about the technology space that we work in and the business outcomes that we're trying to drive. And someone said to me, well, voice isn't that important anymore because obviously there's all of these digital channels, this, that, whatever. And there's so many different ways that you can contact an organization from an app, from bots, from chat, whatever it might be. And also with the likes of Gen AI, Chat GPT, natural language, large language models, all of that. And I mean, my perception of that is when it's a voice interaction with an agent, I don't think there's anything more important because most of the time it's escalated to that point, and that's your last chance to recover the situation.
It really is.
The desktop.
I agree.
Do you find that people can't see the value of the product set that Omningage provide and the information that comes around it, saying where the customer is on their journey with your organization? Do you find people almost sometimes don't understand the value of that particular interaction based on where the customer's been and where they might go?
Yeah, sometimes is the answer to that. I'll be honest, lots of customers that I've done demos to still feel that the voice channel is the most important. It certainly, takes up the majority of their interactions. Voice is king, and I think it always will be. The more deflection techniques that we see in the future and the introduction of automation, true automation, that will just leave the calls that do take place within a contact center will be even more important than the ones that are today. But I do believe I'm from a contact center background. I started out as a starry-eyed 17-year-old walking into a contact center and was overwhelmed by all the different mechanics that make a really successful contact center. I'm still fly the flag. Voice is king. Although it's the most expensive channel, no doubt. It's certainly the one that customers lean on the most in these days, Ajmal.
That's brilliant, Andrew. Thank you. That has given us a good insight into setting up, delivering, and getting to the next stage when doing a customer demo. Thank you.
Cool. No problem. Thank you, Ajmal.